Hello, artists, crafters, and regular misfits. I'm Miss Darling, Queen of the Misfits, and here we are with another video. Today I'm going to be discussing making tags, bookmarks, postcards, art cards, what have you, extra ephemera, smaller ephemera that you take from copyboards. Copyboards are copies from your masterboards. I don't advise cutting up a masterboard unless you're convinced you'll never use it for any other purpose, but always make a copy of it and then further embellish it if it needs it, or cut it up as you see fit. So today we're going to be using some of my acrylic templates, and I do have a video on how to make acrylic templates of your own. You can use cellophane, you can use plastic, you can use other things, but I like the acrylic sheets, and mine have kind of gotten a little dirty over time, but I don't mind because you can see them better that way. So anyway, I have my acrylic templates here, and I always like to start with my largest tag, and but let me first talk about what's on the back. I printed off one of my coffee dyed stitched sheets and glued it to the back because I printed this on rather thin cardstock. It's only 55 pound, and that for me really isn't thick enough to make a decent tag. And so I will print off another design on the back, something that can easily be journaled on, and glue the two together. So now I have 110 pound, and that is sufficient for making a tag, particularly if you want to put an eyelet on the hole. You need something thicker, or the eyelet won't hang right. It'll fall off and or wiggle all around, and you don't want that to happen. So anyway, here is my copyboard, and it's a lot of fun. And so I'm just going to start out with my largest tag and make sure I have a couple of good large tags. And I use the templates to decide my placement. You know, Juan Carlos Fernandez is quoted as saying, "Bad design is smoke, while good design is a mirror." And that's so true. You got smoke and mirrors, and there's an awful lot of people teaching you smoke when you really ought to be learning how to make mirrors. So I try to teach my subscribers a little bit of graphic design principles to help them in designing what they're making so that they're happier when they're done. And that's one of the purposes of an acrylic template. It helps you decide placement, and placement is all important. Next to color harmony, placement is the next most important design principle that you should follow, because if your color harmony is all wrong and your placement is all wrong, you're not going to like what you make, and you probably won't know why you don't like it. You just don't like it and don't feel proud of it. And so by learning good color harmony and good graphic design placement, you'll be a whole lot happier, and so will people who look at your work. They'll be a lot more impressed and think of you more as an artist and not just a hobbyist. Anyway, that's all I'm going to do on the preaching platform today. So I'm thinking I like this placement right here. Gives me enough down below left over to maybe make a bookmark or an art card. So I'm taking a pen so I can see my edges where I need to cut more easily. And so that's where my first tag's going to go. And I think I'll try to get a second large one and take advantage of some of this large focal point I have going on. I'm not crazy about that. Let's take a look at this. That could possibly work. What if we came up here and grabbed that and had that down below? That doesn't work. So if I drop down here and into there, no, I think what I'm going to be happiest is something right about there. So you can see how important the templates are, because if you just cut your tags and ephemera out just any old way without any thought to placement, I guarantee you, you're not going to be satisfied with the end result. At least not as satisfied as you could be if you had used a template and if you knew something about placement design as it relates to graphic design. And I'm kind of liking that. That's rather interesting. Got a lot going on this particular masterboard. So we'll get some unique pieces out of this. And the thing about working with your copyboard is that if you don't get enough of what you want, you make another copy, and then use your templates to select other places, and then you wind up with something completely different from what you got off of the first board. So I'm going to come in here and extend this line out here, so I have a nice little bookmark right there. And yeah, I might be able to get a tall, thin bookmark by extending this line all the way up. And it looks like the rest of my board is just going to be extras that I can use to decorate with, either on these particular pieces or something completely different. You never wind up, well, I should say maybe never, you rarely wind up with wasted pieces, because even if they're small and not really usable all by themselves, they can make a huge difference on the end product of something else. And so I don't throw them away, I keep them, and then maybe find a use for them somewhere down the line, if not today. Now, I talked in the beginning about color harmony, so let me talk about that a little bit more. Every color under the sun has a warm version and a cool version. And the whole trick to color harmony is to divide your colors into a warm camp and a cool camp. And if you combine warm colors with other warm colors, regardless of what the hue, I should say, is. Hue is a artistic term for color. No matter what the hue is, if you mix warm with other warm, they're automatically going to blend because they're warm. And if you mix cool colors or hues with other cool colors or hues, they're automatically going to be in harmony, because they're all cool. Now, most people don't realize that there's a cool version and a warm version, and so they try mixing and mixing, and they don't know why it doesn't come out looking like they hoped it would, and chances are they wound up mixing a cool color with a warm color, and that just is not as pleasing to the eye. Sometimes it works out okay because maybe the amount of warmth or coolness is minimal, but if it's not, then the colors are going to fight each other, and they're just not going to be harmonious. And that's true whether you're in graphic design or interior design or landscape design, anything in design. It's why you generally don't see landscapes that have florals or bushes or whatever that have cool colors. For instance, the leaves are all cool, or the flowers are cool, mixed in with those of the warm variety. They just tend to clash a bit, and just the harmony just isn't there. And so you really need to understand that. That's probably one of the most important design principles you could ever learn, and that is, if you want it to look pleasing to the eye, then you need to make sure your colors are in harmony with each other and not clashing. Now, there are color schemes or color palettes, which colors that you choose to use together, like a tone-on-tone or an analogous palette or complementary palette or a triadic palette. These are where you choose certain colors to work together, irregardless of whether they're warm or cool. I'm just talking about color harmony, which involves picking colors that look harmonious together. Now, if you're creating some artwork or something for a junk journal, whatever, where you want to create a clash, or you want to have some major tension going on, you might decide to cross color keys. But in most cases, you're not doing that. You want to wind up with something that is pleasing to the eye, whether it's your eye or someone else's. And so the more you understand about color harmony, the better off you'll be and the more successful you'll be with each and every project, not just one now and again. And it's lack of understanding of color and placement that separates the pro from the amateur, and separates the person who's been trained from the many people out there teaching and demonstrating and doing this and that and the other who have no clue about color harmony, much less placement. And so that's what you'll get from me, some training on all the important aspects, because I more often than not deal in making art journals that are pleasing to the eye and that have a real design to them and are not just thrown together haphazardly like one might do if they actually were working with junk that they pulled out of the trash can. Anyway, having said that, here are the tags that I got from that one masterboard, using my very handy templates to help me make my placement choices. And then I keep my scraps, because maybe I'll see one that I'm just not that happy with as it is, Like for instance, this could be a good bookmark, but this is rather bland up here and could maybe use a little dressing up. And so I could maybe glue that piece down on top there, and or even down here. I think I may like it a little better there. And so, you know, don't throw away your scraps, because you just never know when you might find something that really helps you solve a different problem, and you didn't have to go create something new. You had a leftover piece of something. My glue's not working right now. As I was saying, you might have something that was left over from a previous project that will solve your current problem, or it might happen right on the fly, just as this is happening. You know, where I beefed up part of what I cut out. You know, the bookmark was actually a leftover, but so is the little piece I just glued on top. And so, you know, they can be very useful. Here is a real skinny, it's really kind of too skinny to be a bookmark. So I'll probably be using it to, you know, make another piece look more handsome and more interesting. And I think maybe I found a use for part of this. Trim that little bit of white off, and then let's see. I might like sticking that down there to make the bottom part of this bookmark a little more interesting. And I think I can cut it right there. But I hope you can see how valuable the templates are in helping you make your design choices with regard to placement. Okay, that looks a little better right off the bat. And I think I'll leave that as it is. And so now you can see I have these pieces left over, which can come in handy down the road. And I got one large tag. Let's see what's on the back. Got a bit of white there, but I'm going to get rid of that right now using some vintage photo ink. You see how that just took that away real nicely, so I don't have to trim more off. I could have just trimmed that back, but then I'd have to trim the other side too to make them match, and I didn't really want to do that. So that's that one, and this is that one. So you can see that, you know, there's a nice imagery back here, but it's light enough that a person can easily journal over it, and that's ideal for sticking into a junk journal. As here we got a little white going on down here. I think I'll just snip that off. And what does this side look like? That sounds fine. Got a little white down here. We'll snip that off. Okay. So I hope that is helpful to you, teaching you a little bit of design principle there having to do with color harmony. And if you abide by that, I guarantee you, as far as a project feeling good, and that's what design all boils down to, is not just how does it look, how does it feel? Does it feel good, or does it feel not so good? And color can destroy your project instantly if they don't work together in a harmonious way. So I encourage you to think about warm with other warm, cool with other cool, but don't cross them, and you'll be a lot happier with what you make. So this has been Miss Darling. If you like this content and find it helpful, I hope you give the video a like and leave me a comment. Let me know what you've learned, what you think and feel, and I'd appreciate it. Share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time. With that said, this is Miss Darling calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.